I'm the Nostalgia Critic. I remember it so you don't have to. There's a lot of cinematic and television universes out there, aren't there? Hell, if you're gonna start a new show nowadays, it's almost expected you have a spin-off ready to go just in case it becomes a hit. The ones that started it were arguably the Universal Monsters, and the most popular today is arguably the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But somewhere in between there's a universe everybody overlooks, the Hanna-Barbera universe. Yeah, from Yogi Bear meeting Huckleberry Hound to Captain Caveman meeting the Flintstone Kids, even having so many characters they formed their own weekly Laugh Olympics. This was for little kids what Monsters and Marvel were for big kids. And you know what? They didn't get enough attention. It's hard enough having one show get off the ground, but when you literally have so many you can have your own Olympics, that's pretty damn impressive. I bring this up because one of the biggest Hanna-Barbera crossovers that kids wanted to see and had to wait years to finally get came to us in 1987 with the Jetsons Meet the Flintstones. Shit's going down! I'd be lying if I said I found either of these shows to be great works of art, but they were groundbreaking in their own right and gigantic hits. And yeah, as a little kid, I loved both of them. They were bright, colorful, easy to follow, and to their credit, very imaginative. At least in terms of how their worlds worked. They were among Hanna-Barbera's most profitable properties, but despite years of requests, they had no idea how to make the Stone Age meet up with the age of the future. Well, after years of waiting, they finally came up with a TV special to combine the two. Nowadays, this doesn't seem like anything that special, but back then, it was kind of a big deal. If you were a little kid in the 80s. But that leaves the question, is it just for kids in the 80s, or is there something for a modern audience? Well, let's combine the past with the future to find out. This is the biggest crossover until the ones that came after it. This is Jetsons Meet the Flintstones. As the credits roll, we see a robotic rooster wake up George Jetson, kind of the alarm version of Bob, isn't it? As George seems to be having a bad dream.
No, Mr. Spacely, that's my throat you're strangling.
At least I hope that's considered a bad dream. My one-piece tear-off pajamas! Man, the future's kinky. Cut to earlier in the day, plus 66 million years, as we see Fred Flintstone is getting up as well.
Hey, stop! Cut it out! Do you know you hear me?
I hate whenever I see that now I have to block out Weird Al Yankovic doing his weird tongue trick. George gets ready for work while his boss gives him a call.
George, it's Mr. Spacely. What shall I tell him?
Drinking in the morning again, George? Thank God the kids are dead. Dark Jetsons will return after these messages. The food machine seems to be broken, giving everybody the wrong meal.
You ordered ice cream for breakfast?
I ordered capsulated whole grain cereal with dehydrated fruit chips.
Ah, an LA millennial breakfast.
I gotta meet Mr. Orbit. He's helping me with my science project, a time machine.
Now there's a real waste of time.
Yeah, now continue on your sidewalk that moves your perfectly able feet. Also, time machine is just a school assignment? Isn't that like bringing the dead back to life for your religious studies class?
Wilma, the elephant is out of hot water!
No, he's not. You just don't want to know where it comes out of.
First thing tomorrow, I'll have the plumber bring a new elephant.
Trust me, you don't want to see where they put the old ones. They check the weather report to see if their possible future vacation spot, Honolulu Rock, is looking pleasant.
The temperature in downtown Bedrock is 47 degrees. Honolulu Rock? Gorgeous as usual.
Okay, is there a supercut of all the appliance scenes? Because it really is the only good part of the show.
Oh boy, sweet and sour brattle ribs and lizard gizzards. My favorite breakfast.
Anyone who has to say lines like that for a living is making too many good life choices. Fred calls Barney, suspecting that Wilma is cooking him his favorite breakfast so that he'll agree to take her to Honolulu Rock. Stone Age problems sound nice.
I'll bet Fred was wondering where they serve sweet and sour ribs every day of the week.
No, he wasn't.
He was wondering if his gums have Addison's disease. Seriously, you should get that looked at. Oh, now I know I saw this in an episode of I Love Lucy-saurus. See, I can make those kind of jokes too.
Haven't you noticed anything?
Yeah, those grass skirts. You back up to the stove, you could start a fire.
Change into something else. You look like cave women. How does this work? Back in the future, George walks into work late.
Nice of you to drop in, George.
Now kiss me.
Tune out, Rudy.
Yes, sir, Mr. Spacely. I'll be here when you need me, George.
Well, that wasn't creepy at all.
That isn't a computer, it's a nursemaid.
And that didn't make it any creepier. Spacely says he suspects a leak from George as a lot of his projects are being stolen by his competitor.
From the lunar probe to the Humphrey Bumgardt look-alike sprockets for the nostalgia buffs.
Dorks.
Too bad, sweetheart.
Everything that computer does scares me. Please stop. Spacely tells George to spy on his competitor or he's fired. Wait, why would you send the suspected leak to spy for you? That's like sending this guy to tattle on Hitler. Back in the past, Fred and Barney talk about combining their money to win a poker game so they can take their wives on even better vacations than what they had planned.
But Fred, the last 6 times you felt lucky, you lost.
Have you ever seen me lose 7 times in a row?
I don't know, how many Flintstone spin-offs have you tried? But his boss says he has to work the night shift while in the future, Spacely's competitor, Cogswell, is basking in his marketing success.
8.5 billion Humphrey Bumgardt cogs.
If you were a woman, I mean a real woman, I could kiss you.
This aged fantastic. George sneaks in as Cogswell's dog, the future, and finds out that his computer Rudy is the leak.
Rudy? My best friend Rudy is the leak?
He confronts the computer about going behind his back.
Sorry, but I gotta report you.
If you just give me a little time.
What will I tell my children, Game Boy and BMO? The computer keeps George in the room and sends Spacely home. Thought I was joking about that Skynet shit, huh? Well, back in the past, Fred and Barnes skipped the night shift to go play poker, but notice their boss is there too. And yeah, that is friggin' hilarious. They disguise themselves, though, to get in.
How come I had to be the woman?
Well, I'm doing the poker playing, aren't I?
Again, aged great.
Now all you gotta do is stand around looking sexy to distract the other players.
While I'm imagining Jennifer Tilly anteing up Fred's head, I have to admit, hearing him say the word sexy might be the most disturbing thing I've ever heard. I don't want to associate anything about the Flintstones being sexy.
Wilma Flintstone is the most desirable woman who ever lived.
With some exceptions.
Always glad to welcome a new face into the game. But not you.
Anti-Spydite.
Speaking of pleasure...
Jesus, this image is looking PC compared to this children's cartoon.
I've got all kings,
4 aces.
Fred loses all of his money and on top of that, reveals who they are.
Hold on, you phony. Barney Rubble is your girlfriend?
You hear that? It's the empty silence of nobody surprised. He fires the two of them as back in the future, George was released by the computer, missed that scene, as it looks like Elroy finished his time machine and even brought back someone from the past.
I don't know where I am. Please, help me, Master.
Okay, there's like 3 setups for pornos in this movie. I'm arousingly confused. Back in the past, Fred and Barney surprised their wives with a much cheaper vacation than planned as they decide to camp outside.
The best things in life are free.
And the worst husbands in life are cheap.
What do you know? A solid joke. Elroy uses his time machine trying to send his family to the future, but accidentally sends them to the past, where the Flintstones are camping.
Hold still, Dino.
Well, we have our commercial shot. No, I didn't mean like that. Hey, what is that? Hey, you can come see us at Wizard World Chicago August 22nd to the 25th. That's me, Brad Jones, Rob, Tamara, Malcolm. You can see us all there, and you can get 20% off your tickets by putting in the promo code AWESOME20. Hope to see you there. So the Jetsons finally meet the Flintstones 1/3 through the movie. With all the repeated backgrounds, who knew Hanna-Barbera could pace themselves? Only the Jetsons think the Flintstones are from the future, and the Flintstones think the Jetsons are from the past. That'd actually be cute if it wasn't hopelessly idiotic. They send their dogs out for, let's face it, commercial shot number 2. Friday night at 7 on that syndicated channel you never bothered to learn the name of. They finally all meet each other and figure out what proper time period they're in and from. Elroy says it'll take a bit to fix the time machine, so the Flintstones try to convince them to stay.
You'll come home with us.
But won't that interfere with your vacation?
Or the timeline of humanity. No, you're right, vacation's more important. They take them to their work picnic where Fred hopes that showing off the future gadgets will get them their old jobs back.
This outfit, it's a little drafty.
I can hear my friends laughing all the way from the future.
Well, Maybe you can get us back to our proper time period, hi? Why, yes, mid-80s cartoon, you would feel naked without a pointless music video.
She'll do the bedrock rock.
Each dude will sigh.
She'll do the bedrock rock.
Call our lawyer. We got more lawsuits against him than Uber.
Mine, all mine.
Fred introduces George's inventions to his boss, who decides to use them to his advantage.
And for our jobs back at double our salaries, our cousin will make you a winner.
Hey, remember Pebbles and Bam Bam? Oh! I don't know, I had a blackout there. They use George's device to win some of the challenges, but lose the last one, causing them to still not get their jobs back.
Well, that was pointless.
Meanwhile, in the future, Spacely breaks into George's home to find out where he went.
He's ruined my business and now he's not man enough to face me.
My PR says it's because of my Hitler stash, but I'm sure that's Jetson's fault too! Meanwhile, in the past, they try to fix the time machine with a pair of pliers.
It's not easy working with nuts all your life.
The Flintstones accidentally get sent to the future where they meet Rosie, the robotic maid.
I never heard a tin can talk before.
We were trying to get the Jetsons back.
We just left them.
5 minutes or 1,000,000 years ago, according to how you look at it.
I mean, cavemen with dinosaurs, kind of confusing gray area. Where does Jesus fall in that mix? We had a Christmas special. The Jetsons try getting used to the Stone Age, though, and surprisingly seem to fit in pretty well.
He's doing all the work.
At last, somebody who appreciates me.
Flintstones is a horror series from a certain point of view. Meanwhile, we see our Stone Age family seem to be fitting in well in the future until Spacely drops by.
That doesn't fool me a bit, and neither does this ridiculous disguise, Jetson.
Well, move over, furry red-eyed horn demon. Fred's face stretched out is my new nightmare tonight. Spacely finds out they're from the past and gets an idea to exploit them. Meanwhile, in the past, George realizes he has to get a job showing off his new gadgets.
George Jetson!
George's beaver shot is something I don't need to see in this crossover. Weirdly. So the Jetsons are now loaded, while back in the future, the Flintstones are being interviewed about being, well, the Flintstones.
How does it feel to be here in another century?
I think the real question is, when did the future allow cloning of TV celebs? And who dropped all of them when they were frozen fetuses?
Can we talk? You promised to be on the Jet Rivers show tonight.
Joan Rivers as a late night host, that'll always be relevant. Back at Bedrock, George's boss gives him a higher position so he can be in charge of the dinosaur strike.
Nothing you can't handle, old buddy, old partner!
The tragedy is the dinosaurs never did solve that dispute, and now they're remembered only as a novelty toy at Denny's. It seems both the Flintstones and the Jetsons are sick of the time period they're stuck in, and the time machine is no closer to getting fixed.
Hopeless. Does not compute.
Well, that's terrifying. Rosie goes to Rudy the computer and asks him to figure out the equation to fix the time machine.
You also have another power. The power of caring for Mr. J.
Okay, am I the only one who wants to see a robotic Joker every time she says Mr. J? They finally figure out how to fix the time machine as Rosie decides to travel back to find the Jetsons. She gets sent to the wrong time period though and sees 2 knights jousting. How'd that even happen? There's literally 2 settings on the damn thing.
Whoever this is, the robots aren't very friendly.
Okay, big missed opportunity. How cool would it have been if she was sent back to the same time period as Scooby-Doo? They would think she's a masked bandit, take her head off thinking it's a mask. Okay, I see the problem.
What made you drive all the way here, George?
I don't know, Jane.
A jump cut. How'd he do that? Rosie gets the time machine right though and finds the Jetsons. They get back home and show Spacely the Flintstone car, which gives him an idea.
Nostalgia buffs will go crazy for one of Spacely's Stone Age specials.
It'll be like that age in the 2010s when anything new was destroyed and anything old was destroyed. But they see Cogswell's spy dog is there taking pictures to report back. Thus, everybody tries to stop him. I really feel like this should be over.
Come to Georgie.
They splatter his dog brains by opening his head. There's disturbingly way too much of that in Jetsons Meet the Flintstones. And the new / old car is revealed, becoming a big hit. George even hands over his partnership to Fred, getting him his old job back. However, it looks like Elroy can't fix the time machine. Christ, it's 1 lever!
You mean we're stuck here forever?
If we live that long.
Yeah, better cut to that commercial. In the last 2 minutes left, so much can happen. Space Lee gives the Flintstones one of the cars, and as soon as they sit in it, they start going back in time. Explain.
They must have absorbed some of the time machine quadro potion.
Explain!
That old car just wants to go home as much as they do.
Both of those are awful! Explain it correctly! It looks like the writers had a deadline, and this is for 5-year-olds, so who cares? Finally, something that makes sense. The Flintstones travel back, Judy gives a wave of complete indifference, and everything is back to its bizarre normality. And I think that's the best way to sum up this special. Comfortable in its bizarre normality. It's hard to say this is really good, but I can't act like it doesn't give what it promises. The two shows have equal screen time, we see them together, we see them apart, and we see them in their different worlds. There's not a whole lot of conflict or character, but that was never really the focus of these shows anyway. It was an excuse to see their weird worlds with people acting like it's a normal world. For adults, there's not a whole lot, but for kids, it's perfectly serviceable. There's nothing massive, epic, or even really that clever about it, but it's cute, and I think that's what most people are expecting. If you're a fan of either of these shows, this will give you the perfectly passable crossover you've kinda been waiting for. I'm a Nostalgia Critic guy, remember it, so you don't have to.
Now all you gotta do is stand around looking sexy.
Hi, Doug Walker here. The Mission Continues is this week's charity shoutout. The Mission Continues is a national, nonpartisan nonprofit that empowers veterans to continue their service in their local communities. It empowers communities with veteran talent, skills, and preparedness to generate visible impact. Veterans possess the drive and desire to serve others, but without access to the tools needed, their potential to make meaningful impact at the local level remains untapped. On the other end of this spectrum, growing numbers of communities in this country are under-resourced and being left behind. At The Mission Continues, their focus to connect veterans with under-resourced communities to make a big difference. Their programs in cities across the country deploy veteran volunteers alongside nonprofit partners and community leaders to improve educational resources, increase access to parks and green spaces, foster neighborhood identity, and more. Click on the link and be a part of their vision for all veterans with a desire to continue their service to be a part of a movement to transform America's communities.